In this video, we will go ahead and solve Leetcode Problem 125, which is about checking if a string is a valid palindrome. A string is said to be palindrome if it can be read forward same as backward. So if you flip the word, it should stay the same word. To solve this problem, we will use the two-pointer approach, which consists of having one pointer pointing at the first element and another pointer that points to the last element. Basically, these pointers will work together to check if the element that they point at are equal. If they are, then we can continue the flow of the program until we reach a point where the pointers are pointing at the same element, and so the string is a valid palindrome. Let us see another case. We will use the two-pointer approach in order to find if this string is valid palindrome or not. So we start at the beginning and at the end, and we compare these characters together. At some point, we find that the character that we are pointing at is not equal to the other character, so we can directly say that the string is not a valid palindrome. One last example before we start writing code, and it is the example given by Leetcode. In this case, we have a full phrase that has words, symbols, and white spaces. To find out if the string is palindrome, we will of course use the two-pointer approach. We will start with the first and last character. If a character is in uppercase, we could just convert it to lowercase, and now we can compare both of those characters. Next, we can see that at the next iteration, we have a white space. So what we can do here is simply increment the left pointer only to skip this white space. And now we can continue the flow of the program. Again, we meet with a symbol. What we will do here is to ignore it, we need to increment the left pointer only and continue the flow. So when you meet a symbol or a white space, just ignore it by only incrementing the pointer that points to these elements. Now let's apply this idea to code. So in front of you I have the isPalindrome function. Let's go ahead and write some code. I will go ahead and start creating the first pointer, which I will call left pointer, like this, and it will point to the first element, which should be at index 0. Now the right pointer right here should point to the last element, which should be the last index. And to do this, I'm going to find the size of the string -1, which represents the last index. Now what I will do is I'll create a while loop. So I'll say while left pointer, like this, is less than right pointer. Now why we say less than? Because left pointer should be less than the right pointer in order to cover all the elements from left to right. And at some point, left and right pointer will be equal to each other. So at this case, the string will be a valid palindrome. Now I'm going to write an if statement, and this if statement will be used to check if the element that is pointed by the left pointer is a character. Now how to do this in C++? We could use a function called isALnum, and this is a built-in function that checks if the given argument is a character. Well, to be more precise, it will check if the given parameter or argument is either an alphanumeric element or if it is a digit. So either if it is from the alphabet or if it is a number from 0 to 9. So if I go ahead and say s indexed left pointer like this, this will check if this element pointing or of this element at this specific index is a character or not. It will of course return a boolean. So if it is not a character, I will say equal to 0 or equal to false. So if it is not a character, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to increment the left pointer only. So I'll say left pointer plus plus, and I'm going to continue the flow of the program. So we will go ahead and skip to the next iteration. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the right pointer. So I'm going to say isALnum, and I will say s index right pointer like this equal to 0 like this. Now if it is this case, what I will do in the right pointer, I'm going to decrement it by 1, and I'm going to continue the flow of the program to the next iteration. Now once we taken care of this condition, we could go ahead and go to the easy part, where we will simply compare the elements from left to right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to write an if statement. So I'll say if like this, and the condition will be the following. I will say is lower, and this is a built-in function also used to convert an uppercase letter to a lowercase letter. So if the element at the left pointer, like this, is different than the element, I'm going to also use is lower, is different than the element at the right side or at the right pointer. So if these two elements are different, that means our string is not palindrome. So I will return false. Now, if this is not the case, that means these two strings are actually equal. So the flow of the program will continue until left pointer is equal to right pointer. Therefore, this string is palindrome, and I'll say here return true like this. Now, in case you're wondering why did I use continue, well, let's take this example. When we arrive to the comma right here, we must ignore it, so I increment the left pointer by 1. Now, if I didn't have the continue, the flow of the program will actually continue to the next if statement. But notice that the next element is a white space, so when we compare the characters together, we will not get an error, but you will end up with the wrong output. For this example, because you didn't ignore a white space and compared it with other characters, so that is why we used continue. Alright, this is it for today's LeetCode problem. Thank you for watching today's video. Make sure to subscribe to stay up to date for the next one.